It's recording. Check. We got to check.
Recording.
Look at that. Rack focus. All right. Hello. We're here.
We're here.
What's this place called?
We are at the Houston Space Center.
Houston Space Center.
I think it's called Space Center Houston. But.
It was something else on
Well,
Google
so
Maps.
here we are. We're at Space Center Houston.
That's what it's called
Across
now.
the way is the Johnson Space Center, where all the magic happens, and we're right in front of a Falcon 9 rocket.
SpaceX rocket.
Yeah. Apparently, I was reading this is one of the ones that was used for a NASA mission, and it was reused.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So
Nice.
this has been used multiple times.
Sweet.
It has landed and then been reflown.
Yeah, you can see
Crazy.
on the back. It's got these legs. There's fins that help it steer when it goes back down. When it's actually, landing.
Yeah, so this thing takes off and lands.
Yeah.
Unlike most rockets.
Yeah, this
Which
is
is why it's
this is the
innovative.
innovation of it.
And so that's what we're here to talk about today is
Kind of.
this guy named Elon Musk and
That's
how
a big
he's
part of
way
it.
too innovative. And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. So yesterday we were just in Houston for a month. Not
Austin.
Houston, Austin. We were in Austin for a month, and we ended up staying one extra day because there was a big Tesla event that we got access to because we know a dude at Tesla.
Yeah, call out to Michael So.
Michael
Thanks
So.
a lot. You're the best.
It was great. And so
Great to
Michael So
see
got
you.
us into the opening of the new Gigafactory in Texas, in
Yeah.
Austin, Texas, which is basically where they're going to be making all these Model Y Teslas, which is like the most affordable, the newest model of the Teslas.
Yeah.
So it's the biggest factory building in the world. It basically just opened. They just started actually producing cars there. And
It is massive.
It was very large.
There's 2 floors. I think the length of it is like 16 city blocks
Yeah.
or something like that. It's like if you lay it on its side, it's taller than the Burj Khalifa. So
the tallest building.
It's really big.
Yeah, it's insane.
And
Anyway,
it's
so-
all going to be building Tesla products.
Yeah.
Everything from right now it's focusing on the Model Y, but it's going to be building Cybertrucks next
Right.
year. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And so the event that we went to was called what was it called? It was going to be called the
Gigafest. So it's the name of the factory is the Gigafactory. That's what Tesla calls their factories.
Right.
So this was Gigafactory Austin or Giga Texas, I think they call it.
Texas, yeah.
And this event was called the Cyber Rodeo, named
Right.
after the Cybertruck. And it was really weird. It was a very weird event. Super
It was very
fun.
weird.
Crazy like
They had like food
like
trucks,
attractions.
like everywhere else in Austin.
But it was basically a big, marketing scheme.
Oh yeah.
That was like
no, it was
a
100%
great
an ad.
idea.
100% an ad.
Because
yeah.
it was super fun.
Right.
And like everybody should market
They-
by
they-
throwing
well, they-
massive
they-
parties.
So they invited 15,000 people to this fucking building because it's big enough that you can just fit 15,000 people, no problem. Like, not even an issue. And Gary Clark Jr. played there. We didn't know that was gonna happen. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's like we're walking around. It's like.
But he was great. It was a great show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a
let's-
weird event.
Let's talk about the event a little.
We walk in there. It's this massive hangar doors opening
Right,
up.
right.
And there's like multiple stages, incredible kind of like production value. It's based on the idea of the Cybertruck, which is like,
Right.
trying to be all futuristic cyberpunk.
It was kind of
And,
stupid.
It was very
Well,
silly.
it's a big it's super gimmicky. Right?
Yeah, it's
Because
super
They're
gimmicky.
like, we named it the Cybertruck. Now all our branding is cyber.
Yeah.
And they had like this intense. Actually, my favorite part was, so a lot of it was you're kind of walking through the factory, like
Right.
on the factory tour.
That was
and you're, like,
honestly
seeing-
the coolest part
That was the actual
for me, at
That was
least.
the actual event.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything else is kind of like window dressing. you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, the event was based around the opening of the new factory. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the big announcement.
Right.
The big, hoopla was all about.
Right.
This is the biggest factory in the world, people, and
Yeah.
we're going to make a crap load of cars here.
Yeah.
It's their new headquarters. And so they're,
Right.
they're just expanding like crazy.
But for
and-
people who don't actually give a shit about the assembly line, they were like, we'll have tacos and Gary Clark Jr. and dubstep
yeah,
music playing.
yeah.
And it's
Hey,
like, okay,
I
sure.
mean,
Yeah,
that,
that's
I
how-
enjoyed that part too.
Yeah. But it was really cool because actually as you walk through the tour of all the different processing and here's where they do the casting and molding and fucking crazy mechanical production stuff. They had all this really dramatic. That was actually my favorite part, and that was the part that made me got me excited.
The
about
dramatic
it.
music?
They had like Blade Runner music, like dramatically playing all through this enormous building.
Yeah.
You're like walking into the next room. It's like bright white.
It
and the
did
last
work.
one's all
It
dark.
did work.
It was super effective.
Yeah.
That was the coolest part by far. Right. I thought I was gonna really enjoy Elon talking, and that was a super letdown. The best part was looking at these cars,
Yeah.
in various stages of production,
Yeah.
and just this kind of ominous music. It's
Yeah.
kind of ominous.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
Cyberpunk. I mean, it's Cyberpunk is basically a dystopian
dystopian,
future
yeah.
sci-fi.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what it is.
which is
So-
a little,
Which is kind of funny, but
yeah.
it's cool. It's automatically cool. So
Yeah, it's much easier to imagine a dystopian cyber future than a utopian one.
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, sure.
That's what every sci-fi book is about.
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah.
is that it's like, it's kind of not perfect.
Yeah, it's
you
hard
know?
to write books about a utopia. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, well yeah.
Unless it's a dystopia disguised as utopia.
Right,
you know,
right,
so
right.
You gotta have some
Classic.
conflict in it.
But yeah, that was the coolest part.
Yeah,
was
one thing that was really cool about what Elon said was, for the most part, he didn't really announce that much new stuff.
He was
other
kind
than
of just
the
there to-
factory was the big
yeah,
event.
Yeah.
But one thing he said about it was they thought about this factory as if it was a system on a chip. So basically like
Right. Integrated circuit.
like an integrated circuit that's being designed all
Right,
together.
Right. Well, and
And-
he showed a frame in his little keynote thing of the Gigafactory in Nevada, right?
Yeah.
And he was showing this is the building where we do all the casting for all the things, and this is where we stamp stuff, and this is where whatever. And you got to move the cars from this building to this one, and then from this building here. And so I don't know if this is the first one that they've designed in this way.
I'm not sure.
I don't know, but this one was clearly very optimized. As soon as the printing or as soon as the stamping is done for these big pieces, it's directly put 25 feet away in the next room to where they're actually glued
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
It's
And-
it's all in a row.
Yeah, and it's cool because I think Elon is definitely a nerd,
Right.
and that's great because you get this insight. It's not just it's not just all talk. He's actually saying, we're
Right.
innovating in manufacturing,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you're like, oh, that's boring. It's just a factory. How
Right,
can
right.
that be exciting? And it's like, well, that's where you can actually make a big difference.
Right.
If
Well,
you can
that's what he was saying
produce
is-
cars for cheaper, then you can do new things.
Yeah.
And that's what Tesla's doing and
Yeah.
doing really well. They're thinking about the whole production line. And,
Yeah.
it's like
the thing he
he's
said was-
emphasized that multiple times. You
Yeah.
can explain.
Yeah, the thing that stuck out to me was that he said, the car is a product, obviously, but the real product is the Gigafactory. Because
Right.
that's the actual thing that can produce cars.
Yeah.
Right?
He
So,
referred to it as the machine that builds the machine.
Right, exactly. And so it's if he was saying it's hard to build a prototype of a car,
Right.
but it's not nearly as hard as building 5 million of that
Yeah.
car. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
it's
I've heard
that
him
jump is
emphasize.
way harder.
Yeah. I've heard him emphasize that with SpaceX,
Right.
in terms of building Starship, and it's in terms of building the the Merlin 5 engines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's one thing to build a rocket engine that works and meets the
Right.
specifications. The real question is, how do you scale that up, and how do you make it, you know, cheap and cost effective so that it's actually going to be used?
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of these companies these startups that are popping up are, you know, they're able to make a prototype, right? But like
cool
Elon
and
said,
it's
the
vector.
prototype is kind of
That's the
the
easy
simple
part. Right.
The problem is
in a large
saying,
way.
okay, here's this design we have, here's this idea we have, and we've proven that it would be cool if we could have it. But how do you get it cheap enough that it's actually going to work as a company?
Right.
And, you know, all you can supply all the materials
Yeah.
and like
and sustainable enough. Like there
and that's
was,
the mind blowing thing is he actually pulled it off, right?
yeah. This factory is a fucking enormous accomplishment. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like I've never seen anything. Well, obviously I've never seen any building as big.
Yeah.
It's the biggest fucking building.
Right.
But it was like I was in there and it was like, wow, this is like one of the pinnacles aside from, you know, space travel.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. This is one of the pinnacles of technological process.
Yeah.
Progress.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like maybe, you know, at Apple headquarters where they're building that would be another example of like, or, you know, or Intel or somebody where it's like you go there and you're like, wow, this is like one of the peaks that we're at right now of like you're just pumping out these super powerful personal computers. You know, this is another one of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it's like you see these cars being built. They're cutting edge.
Yeah.
They're high performance. They're well made. They're actually sustainably built. It's like the fucking gold, whatever. It's the gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like it's really not even. It's not even the one thing. It's not that they made a cool car. It's not that they made the biggest factory in the world. It's not that they, you know, have good branding. It's that they've kind of wrapped this up into this kind of whirlwind of, you know, innovation and branding and hype and
Well,
actual
we'll get to the hype
and
in a
actual
minute, I think.
engineering innovation.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
They're actually pushing the entire car industry forward.
Yeah. Well, this is what he said last night that I didn't know. Apparently, 2/3 of the electric vehicles on the road in North America are Teslas,
Right.
which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy.
That's a lot,
Yeah.
right? For one company.
Right.
It's like you would have thought that like Ford or somebody else would have just been like, yeah, it's not that hard. We just got to make some batteries and chuck them in a car and change the powertrain and like.
Right.
You know, now we have those two, and yeah, we'll just ship them out. We're good.
Yeah.
But it's like there's so much to it.
Yeah.
That.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, because there's a status quo. There's like there's
Right.
there's the way that cars are made, and you know, I feel like traditional car manufacturers they have a built-in interest to not deviate from that because
Right.
they've invested, all their supply lines, all their assembly lines are built around one way of doing things.
Right.
So when you're starting from scratch, when you're scaling up at this rate, you can just say, okay, we're gonna change how cars are made for us.
Right.
And that's an advantage of being
Yeah.
a new company, and that's why new companies happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Is because old companies, they get to maturity, they can't innovate,
Right.
Just because they have a vested
They get
interest
calcified,
in the
and
status
then
quo.
you can't do it. Yeah, you can't change things easily.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to make one more point, and then I want to get into the hype.
Yeah.
Because the hype is an interesting
hype
aspect of this whole enterprise.
The hype
right?
machine that builds the machine that builds the machine.
Builds the machine. Yeah, exactly. That's that's the name. That should be the name of this podcast.
Sure.
So the one thing I just wanted to say before that is actually talk about the innovations that he mentioned with regards to the Model Y and this Gigafactory in particular.
Yeah.
So one of the big things that there are two main ones that I remember. Maybe there's another one.
Yeah.
Essentially, a huge part of the chassis of the Model Y, they've simplified it into, I think he said, 3 primary pieces of the actual body of the car.
Yeah.
So one of them is like the front I don't know if you'd call it the engine compartment. Not there's no engine there, so.
Yeah.
But the front body, the rear body, and then the actual battery cell on the powertrain.
Right.
And so
yeah, I think the well, so one of the big innovations is switching from stamping to casting.
Right.
And they were really emphasizing that here.
Yeah, that was a big part of
it came across
factory
where they're
tour.
like, we can just replace like a third of the car's body with a casted piece of metal,
and we have,
as opposed to
we do have footage of all this, so we'll be intercutting.
Yeah, no, that was definitely cool. I mean, they had these custom casting machines.
They were. I think he said they were some of the biggest.
Yeah.
Casting machines, whatever those are called,
I guess so.
in the world.
Yeah.
They were like 20 feet high and like 45 feet long.
Right.
They're like, I felt like I was in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
This is where the battle droids are made.
Those are battle droids over there. Those are battle droids.
I feel like Qui-Gon Jinn's gonna hop out.
Yeah, he's hiding right behind there with Obi-Wan. Yeah, so that was really cool.
Yep.
And then the other big innovation with regards to the Model Y was the actual battery cells are contributing structurally, which is really good idea. Essentially, so previously you would like put all the batteries in a big blob on the bottom, all the battery cells, and then you'd have to like reinforce that with a bunch of other crap, and basically to lose weight, to get weight off of the car, they basically designed the batteries to hold much of the structural integrity of the vehicle.
Yeah, they called it the structural battery pack.
Yeah.
Where like the battery pack is part of the chassis.
Yeah.
So you can kind of, once you install the battery pack, you don't have to like build a housing around it. It's kind of designed to be the structure.
Yeah.
And they were saying even the battery cells are like taking some load.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah,
Because like
pretty
you don't want to
insane.
like crush them, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they've thought
but
about
then
that.
he said it was safer and like
Yeah,
I believe him.
and it's also it's
probably-
lighter, so it's going to be more efficient. It's
Yeah.
going to be more energy efficient and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that like, especially because there's such an emphasis within this thing on manufacturing being simplified and streamlined.
Right.
You can see, and you could see it in the factory, how much simpler the process would be if you can just cast this huge portion. Then you would have had to press all these pieces and stamp them together and rivet them and whatever. Like, they just simplified it. It's like now you just cut out, 200 feet of assembly line with this big ass machine.
Yeah,
more.
you can clearly see that in the demonstrations.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this looks way better.
This looks way better. It's way simpler. It's like
I would just say part of the reason they've been able to do these innovations is because they have this kind of like positive feedback loop of like, oh, we did something cool and we're flashy.
Yeah.
And so that like gets people excited.
Yeah.
And then you can grow and you have this kind of like flywheel of hype and payoff that like actually makes a company.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
It's kind of bizarre. I mean, and you can talk about like their stock valuation and how it's like insane. It's like absurd. It's gone up like by a factor of 50 in the last 4 years or whatever. It's like
I've never bought Tesla stock. I wish I did many times.
Yeah, me too.
But it's like because I've always thought, okay, Tesla's doing these crazy things, but they're massively overvalued, and that's what everybody's been saying.
Right.
But
it's part of that is they capitalized on that, and they're expanding, they're blowing up, right?
Yeah.
They're throwing gargantuan amounts of money into these things that are going to be assets for them and make them even more gargantuan amounts of money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's this really interesting like they have like this kind of ghost of additional value. You know what I mean? Like like they're probably worth, let's say they're worth like this much.
Yeah, in actual assets
and
production.
like value of the company. but they kind of have all this like fluffy like
Phantom.
vapor, like fake value.
Yeah.
Just from like the hype and Elon being a crazy person,
Yeah.
and they're tied to SpaceX and
Yeah.
this whole kind of weird culture around it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they just took all this money that they got from all this vaporous value, and then they're like, okay, we'll build some real stuff with it so that starts to make up,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
how overvalued it is. And
Yeah.
it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious. I mean, to be there, it was like being part of like the biggest commercial ever.
Yeah.
Like there's like flashing lights,
Right.
there's fireworks. I mean, one of the coolest things
Yeah.
was the drone show.
Well, I mean, one of the dumbest things.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
But it was like you guys have seen the Spider-Man Far From Home. The last one.
The second one.
Where they have drones that like make illusions in the sky.
Well,
and, like,
they're doing
they're
that.
all
There have
coordinated.
been other like this is becoming a thing. Like in the
Yeah,
last like
yeah,
6
but-
months, people are doing these big displays where
Yeah.
they put a bunch of drones in the sky with LEDs on them, and then they fly around and make shapes, and it's like a new kind of fireworks kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And they did it here, and it was super cool.
It
I mean,
was really
like-
cool. It was actually
and
really
we were like at the stage and like looking out the enormous windows of the factory.
Yeah.
And like you see them like they're moving, and it felt very Iron Man.
Yeah.
It felt very like we're in like a Marvel movie.
Yeah,
now.
it felt like in Iron Man 1 where he's like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
like based around Elon, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but like,
Well, it's weird because I don't think it was.
it wasn't?
No,
it feels
because-
like it is.
Well, it feels like it now, but
Yeah.
everybody's always comparing him to Tony Stark, and it's like
Yeah, maybe he copied Tony Stark.
I think he did. I think
Kind
he
of-
did.
kind of
Well, that's
little
what
bit of-
that's what I was thinking last night. I
little
was
bit of
like, at
both.
this event, I was like, he probably watched Iron Man 2
And was like, I'm gonna be
right
that.
before planning this event.
Yeah.
He's like, or he told his assistant.
like,
or
"Just do
whatever."
that.
He's like, yeah, just do that as much as you can. I know I don't have the suit, but I have a Cybertruck. That's kind of my suit.
we're working
now.
on it. We're working
yeah,
on it.
So, yeah, he probably is, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
I hadn't even thought of that.
yeah.
They're
who knows?
probably there. Oh, all right. Let's not do this.
Yeah.
I
Who
don't wanna-
knows?
I don't
Who
want to
knows?
go down this hole.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, as far as the event goes, I mean, it was just spectacle. It was really
it's
cool.
a lot of spectacle.
They gave us free food.
We walked right up
It's
to a
fucking
Cybertruck.
crazy.
We saw the new Roadster.
Yeah.
We saw the semi. I touched the wheel. I'm gonna get arrested by Elon for this. I touched the wheel of the Tesla semi. It felt
Dude,
like
you're
regular
you're
wheel.
blessed now.
I actually get an
Well,
honorary
but that's
CDL
the
for
crazy
that.
thing is like this hype machine has created these fans that are like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
dedicated.
Well, dude, and I felt it last
yeah.
night.
Oh, it
I
was
mean,
like being
I'm
at a cult rally. It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah, it
the
felt
amount
like
of
that.
fervor when Elon comes up
He
on
drove
stage
up-
in
yeah,
in his Roadster.
Welcome. To Cyber Rodeo.
Yeah.
It was like
It was
like, what- this
really
is
weird.
crazy. These
And
people
I
would
would
like
say I'm like
go to
a-
war for this guy.
I'm like a moderate Tesla fan, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm like interested in it. I think it's cool.
yeah.
I think Elon does a lot of insane stuff. I think SpaceX is awesome.
Yeah. Well, but it's like it's undeniably fun. It was super fun
it
to
was
be there
super
because
fun.
everybody's hyped and like,
well, and like these
there's
cars
cool
are
cars
crazy.
and
They're so
you know,
cool. Well, and it's funny because we've been driving around the Toyota Sienna. We've driven it 8,000 miles at this point,
Yeah.
and we're like getting sick of this stupid handling and parking it and stuff. And it's like you see these Teslas. There were so many Teslas all over the place
Yeah.
at this event, and it was like, wow, those are really, really, really
Yeah, I could
nice.
really go
Like,
for one
I
of
would
those
take
right
one
now.
of those right now.
I wish we were driving Cybertruck across
Yeah,
the
exactly.
country.
they're just eating all day?
They will know when to stop.
Okay.
They start laying down. And
Okay, they're like, God. We're at a party of the person who's the richest man in the world. We're just at his party. It's like, what the fuck? That's weird. You know? Wax Motif is playing. Gary Clark Jr.'s here.
I built all this.
Build this? Holy fuck, man!
I planted it.
Damn. How long did it take to grow?
Years, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, honestly.
Can I get? Do you have any like seeds? So I can like
You know what?
get some cuttings? I don't know.
I actually sold them all to Elon, so.
Oh fuck! You probably paid a
I'm
lot.
a millionaire now. It's
Oh,
crazy.
shit. Are these all real diamonds?
These are, yes! These are all real diamonds. I got one from each different country in the whole world.
That seems like there's not enough countries.
No.
From
That's an additional
plastic.
one strand.
Wow. Shit.
It's one.
You don't know which ones.
Thank you. I think they're gonna send me to Mars.
Dude, I hope so.
To start.
I hope you have a good time there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks.